We're back. Last day of the month. Wanted to finish up the month right. And we have an update on Nick Bosa from what John Lynch said this morning. Do not expect a deal with Nick Bosa to be imminent. I'm reading in between the tea leaves of what John Lynch said and how this situation is progressing with Nick Bosa's representation. That's agent Brian Arolt and the 49ers, who obviously must work with their own salary cap situation. Yes, we are in the midst of a deadline. And I say in the midst of a deadline instead of at a deadline because we've always talked about this deadline as being a general one. It really started with the beginning of training camp. There's another inflection point around right now when pads come on. Probably another inflection point when the preseason games begin. And then really a final deadline at week one. Because if this stretches out beyond week one, then Nick Bosa is going to start missing games. And that becomes situation extremely critical for the 49ers. But as John Lynch said today, he doesn't like what's going on right now. That's obvious. And he would like to get this contract done sooner rather than later so that Nick Bosa can get into training camp and build the appropriate callus to be ready for the season. Because it's hard to just get up out of bed and play in an NFL game. Now, that's not to say that Nick Bosa is going to come in out of shape. We know that Nick Bosa is probably one of the most meticulous workers in the NFL. He's probably at his super secret gym in Florida right now, Fort Lauderdale, in tip-top shape. But John Lynch's point was you still have to be out there working on the practice field with teammates, actual football activities to be really, really tip-top ready for week one. So the 49ers do want to get Nick Bosa into the building, but based on what John Lynch said, I do think it's going to take a little bit longer. And here is why. This is what John Lynch said, and I can go ahead and read what John Lynch said today. So this is a quote from John Lynch. I'll reiterate what I said in the opening presser that we agreed, both Nick and I and Brian Arolt, his agent and representative, and I, that it's important that we keep those things private. So I'm going to honor that. That's how I liked it as a player, and I completely understand that. I'll just tell you, we have to strike the right mix of urgency. I don't like this. I don't like not having one of our best players here. We've got a really good track record that I'm proud of as a group of having our players in, but I also understand that we're going to have to exhibit some patience and understand that ultimately this thing will work out. I'm very confident in that, and we're just going to have that right mix of urgency and patience. And again, I remain confident that we will come to an agreement and get things taken care of so that we can have one of our best players, one of the best teammates. This is the guy that addresses our team every Saturday and just gives his wisdom. We miss him and are looking forward to the day he's coming back. That's what John Lynch said about Nick Bosa. Those really aren't the words of a general manager who expects his star defensive end to walk through that door tomorrow. They're just not. That's something John Lynch is really bracing us for a little bit of a longer stretch of time. And there obviously is a level of disagreement about how this contract should be executed between both sides. And there's plenty of room for disagreement to flourish in a situation where a contract is expected to be so big. It's a tricky one for a number of reasons that I'll get into in just a little bit. But John Lynch did emphasize a little bit later on in this press conference today, although he refused to get into details, we're both striving for the same thing. And then he absolutely emphasized that he's very confident that the 49ers are going to get this done. So what's going on here? What's the potential gulf between the 49ers and Nick Bosa? Well, it's a good thing that we could just refer to this article. It's handy. This is the evergreen article for any Nick Bosa contract discussion. I wrote this a long time ago. This is back in April, so it's nearing 4 months. What Nick Bosa's new contract, a likely 49ers record, might look like. So just in general, we are looking at what will probably be the largest contract in 49ers history, and it's not going to be given to a quarterback. It's going to be given to a defensive end. On top of that, we're also looking at what might be the largest contract for a defensive player in NFL history. Now, the potential gulf comes from the fact that you look at the edge rusher market right up here. TJ Watt tops it out at $28 million. And then you look at the defensive tackle market. Aaron Donald tops it out at $31.7 million. In a normal year or in a normal time without Aaron Donald existing, and we know Aaron Donald's a complete alien, with how he's revolutionized the defensive tackle position and also revolutionized the pay scale of the defensive tackle position. But in a normal time, Bosa's just shooting to surge past TJ Watt, who's at 28 million. So maybe you'd think 29 or 30 million per year for Nick Bosa. But look where Donald is, 31.7. So 31.7 is a lot more than 28 million. You put it this way, if the 49ers are offering to have Nick Bosa pass TJ Watt, say they're saying, hey, Nick, 29 million per year, and Nick Bosa's camp wants 32 million per year, and they sign a 5-year deal, well, that's 3 million per year. That's $15 million of difference. The gulf might be $15 million large. I'm not saying that's the gulf. I'm just telling you that these little milestones, these parameters matter. Donald money matters. TJ Watt money matters. And where the 49ers and Bosa both want this contract to be matters in this situation. Hence the holdout. The holdout happens because there is a disagreement. But remember, Nick Bosa needs to play this season to make any money at all. He can't just sit back in Fort Lauderdale all season long. And if he does play, if he does show up, he's guaranteed $17.9 million on his current 5th-year option. So that's what he would be turning away by just sitting at home the whole time. The reason I bring this up is because ultimately deadline pressure is very likely to win out. And that's why John Lynch is so confident. Now, the longer this takes, the more the 49ers' feet are held to the fire, the more theoretically they're going to be willing to cave into some of Nick Bosa's demands, unless they don't flinch, unless they have a really good poker face and they just sit there and they say, take it or leave it. Here's the offer. If you don't want to show up and play, then they'll show up and play. You want to maintain good, cordial balance with one of the best defensive players, if not the best defensive player in the game. So that's where John Lynch's job, that's where Parag Marate's job comes in. You have to play this situation tactfully. You want to maintain good levels of respect. You hear John Lynch talking about Brian Arold and Nick Bosa's representation in really positive terms. And if you maintain that line of respect, you hope that you get to a good business agreement when the time is done. You hope that the deadline pressure naturally pushes you into an agreement. I will say that Nick Bosa loves playing the game of football. And 2, I will also say that he loves it so much that he could come in without much practice and still be a dominant player. The 49ers know this firsthand. In 2019, Bosa was coming off of an adductor injury or an oblique injury, I believe, not an adductor. We'll call it abductor is an oblique muscle, but let's just call it an oblique injury that Bosa suffered while he was with Ohio State. He didn't do much of anything in the preseason training camp. It was a much lighter load for Nick Bosa last year. No preseason snaps. And then he showed up and he dominated week 1 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So it is possible for Nick Bosa to show up week 1 and dominate. The 49ers just would not prefer that. When we talk about the potential gulf, well, we should also talk about a potential contract for Nick Bosa. What might this look like? Well, take a look at my proposal. And I don't know if this is something the 49ers have proposed. I mean, if they have, I'm surprised Nick Bosa hasn't taken it because it surpasses both Aaron Donald and TJ Watt in terms of average per year and fully guaranteed money. I'm operating with some cap tricks, a double bonus formula, the prorated signing bonus, and also the prorated guaranteed option bonus that would kick in 2024. 49ers might dig even deeper into their pockets and go with a triple bonus formula. That's what the Eagles did with Jalen Hurts. The key is, though, that the 49ers need to spread out these cap hits because they have 270 million plus in liabilities already for 2024. This kind of contract right here, I mean, if they took this deal, that would add 36 million in liabilities for 2024. That would put the 49ers over, well, yeah, that would put them over 300 million. It would. My crappy math is checking out. So the salary cap's not going to be that high. So that's why every dollar matters here. And that's why I think the triple option bonus could be something that the 49ers do go for in this situation with Nick Bosa, because with the triple option bonus, they'll be able to kick some of that cap hit further down the road. With NFL revenues increasing year by year, a big surge is expected this next year thanks to the new TV deals with YouTube, Amazon. The NFL salary cap is also expected to increase. And within that increase, because those two are tied together, revenue and the salary cap, you hope that you can pay Nick Bosa, and you hope that you can eventually maybe even pay Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk still has to prove it for a second straight year on the field. I joked around, and maybe I shouldn't have been joking. Maybe I should have been serious. The 49ers should think about extending Brandon Ayuk right now based on how he's dominating at practice, because it looks to me like that price tag might only go up next season. But there's enough money to go around to retain an A-list core, especially if the cap keeps growing. But there's not enough money to go around if you are whimsical with the money and you just decide to light it on fire and give Bosa an extra $10 million when you can negotiate a little bit of a harder deal if you're the 49ers. The difference between getting into cap trouble and staying under the cap in a sustainable fashion is not a very big one. And right now, the 49ers are trying to walk that tightrope. And that is why there's a gap between Nick Bosa and the 49ers, or I should say Nick Bosa's representation and the 49ers. Anyway, today practice was a lot of fun. It was the most entertaining practice. The 49ers put on the pads. There was a fight. They saw all three quarterbacks play well. Trey Lance, I thought, was the best today, but Sam Darnold, pretty damn good too. Brock Purdy, not quite as good, but Brock Purdy faced the first team, so he's going to be facing a better defense. He was intercepted by Dre Greenlaw. Turnover-free football from both Trey Lance and Sam Darnold. Trey, 9 of 11. Sam Darnold, either 6 of 8 or 7 of 9. This was on the heels of a great day from Sam Darnold on Sunday. And John Lynch, when he did speak this morning, made a point, and he said that, Sam Darnold just needs to continue stacking the types of days that he had on Sunday, and the 49ers and everybody is going to be really happy. This is the quote from John Lynch. He said that the light bulb came on and you could see the talent, the big time thrower that he can be. And that was a good day. And now if he can continue to stack that, that's good for everyone. So I think the same thing applies to Trey Lance, because Trey Lance today was really good. 9 of 11, best throw of the day into that tight window to Ray McLeod on the slant pattern, and then a good anticipatory throw to Chris Conley. Awesome stuff from Trey Lance today, but now he's got to stretch it out into multiple days. Consistency is there. So maybe a light did come on accuracy-wise for Trey Lance. For Sam Darnold, it came on playbook knowledge-wise, right? He hasn't been in this system before. Lights came on for both of these quarterbacks. Now they need to keep them on. Meanwhile, Brock Purdy's looking good, especially considering the fact that he's so closely removed from elbow surgery. I mean, we knew it was going to take some time for Purdy to fully swing into the mix. Well, I think he's fully swinging into the mix. He's 12 of 16 today. Got that interception out of his system. That wasn't a good one to Dre Greenlaw, but that long touchdown pass to Christian McCaffrey was a good one. Some good mobility in the backfield from Brock Purdy to avoid a sack. Found Elijah Mitchell in the flat on the play that I'm talking about. It was a good day for all three 49ers quarterbacks. And they're doing that, though, without having to face Nick Bosa. If Bosa does show up here during training camp, he can make the days of 49ers quarterbacks a whole lot worse. All right, let's put on the Q&A. I went for a run this afternoon or this early evening. It was beautiful. Well, I'm not sure that the 49ers made a mistake with Buckner as much as they were facing some salary cap realities. You have to weigh it with Buckner. Now, I will agree. I saw a comment from you a little bit later on. You said that they were not able to replace Buckner through the draft, and that's true. What happened is, and we'll see how Javon Kinlaw does this year, because he actually was one of the players that really impressed today, but more on that in a little bit. But, what happened was the 49ers were facing a fork in the road, right? It was either to build a sustainable team. It was either keep Buckner or it was keep Jimmy Ward, Eric Armstead, really a collection of players on the other end. At some point, you do have to go to the draft for cost-controlled replacements. I think the 49ers core, A-list core, can grow every year, but I think the way they delineate it between Buckner and the players they've re-signed is this particular regime didn't draft DeForest Buckner. He came aboard in 2016. So anyway, they decided to go to Kinlaw. Kinlaw hasn't panned out yet. You can all debate amongst yourselves why he hasn't panned out yet. I think the obvious reason is injuries. If he stays healthy, maybe he will pan out this season. But they didn't get that replacement for Buckner via the draft, and that's hurt this football team, undoubtedly. But they also got stuff that did help them. They got 3 years of Jimmy Ward, right? they're in a position now cap wise where they didn't hit cap hell at a much earlier date than they're projected to hit it. And I think they could still stave off cap hell if they continue playing their cards right. They were able to sign Javon Hargrave this year to finally take care of that pass rushing issue, that pass rushing void that they've had on the interior defensive line ever since trading away DeForest Buckner. So whether or not you call it a mistake, and everybody's entitled to their opinion because the final book on this probably won't be written until long after all of the players involved have retired. But whether or not you call it a mistake, the 49ers did suffer a drop off in interior pass rushing presence with the departure of DeForest Buckner. And it's something that they're finally hoping to fix with the addition of Javon Hargrave this offseason. By the way, Javon Hargrave is a better pass rusher than DeForest Buckner. That's really exciting for the 49ers. They might have even hit the upgrade button from 2019 as far as the interior pass rush of this defensive line is concerned. Smash that like button and hit that subscribe button. Hit 40K this month. We might hit 41K by this month if you guys all hit that like button. But everything is going well. We're putting some good articles up out on The Athletic. We're going to have a podcast episode coming out this week. Travel is going to be coming back soon, going to Vegas for 49ers Raiders next week. We're in the grind of training camp now. The pads have come on, so smash that like button because this is the good stuff. These are the times that we're going to remember when it is all said and done. Akshay thinks the defensive line is going to be crazy. I think that Drake Jackson's looking good. He had a pressure today. Cleveland Farrell had a pressure today. Probably didn't make the coaching staff too happy because he hit the ball when it was in Brock Purdy's hand and it looked like it could be dangerous for the elbow. No harm, no foul. Everybody was okay, but you can't touch the quarterback. You can't touch the ball when it's in the quarterback's hand. You got to protect your own. And I'm assuming that the 49ers will let Cleveland Farrell say just that. Well, Lynch should be confident. They have Nick Bosa under contract for this season. At the end of the day, the 49ers have more leverage than Nick Bosa. But the 49ers are also trying to do right by their player because doing right by their player gives them a better chance to field the most sustainable, most dominant football team. So they've got to be patient. Like Lynch said, there has to be urgency and there's got to be patience. There's got to be a balance between both. And I think this is the question. Is Bosa going to get more than Aaron Donald per year? I thought that there's a really good chance, right? Because Donald's at 31.7, TJ Watt's at 28 million. If you give Bosa just slightly more than 31.7 million, the argument is that he deserves it because he's the defensive player of the year. Now, Aaron Donald suffered some injuries last year. That took him out of the running for defensive player of the year. Maybe you argue that Bosa hasn't been good enough for long enough to surpass Aaron Donald money. Well, if that's the case, if that's what the hill that the 49ers want to die on, then we might see a $30 million deal that's shy of Aaron Donald's number. That's why this negotiation is so fascinating. I'm going to put out a poll on Twitter. This is going to be good. Will Aaron Donald... no, here, let's put this out there. Will Nick Bosa sign for an average per year APY that exceeds Aaron Donald's 31.7 million in his new contract with the 49ers? That's fine. I'm getting the wording better, guys. Well, Nick Bosa signed with the 49ers for an average per year that exceeds Aaron Donald's 31.7 million. And now we'll do a little poll question. And we'll keep this poll open for Let's keep it open for an hour. An hour is good. Post. I'm going to put this up on the screen here in a little bit, and we'll see what the results are. What do you guys think? Yes or no? Will Nick Bosa sign with the 49ers for an average per year that exceeds Aaron Donald's $31.7 million? Yes or no? You could type in yes or no in the comment section or in the chat section, wherever you prefer. Let me get this one up on the screen for you. The initial votes are rolling in. So far, it's a yes. Just have to get this up on the screen. Just have to get the right window open. There we go. Almost there, guys. All right, get in on this poll. As you can see, we have 54 votes. Overwhelmingly, people say yes. Yes or no for you in the chat section. I see a lot of yeses. I'll put this poll up on the YouTube too. You could do it with kind of a Twitter style on YouTube. Bosa with the highest paid until Parsons gets paid like a defensive end. Well, Nick Bosa will reset the defensive end market for Parsons. I think it's a given. It's Donald money. That's the big question. I'm going to refresh this. We'll see where we are. 81 votes. It's at 86%. All right. So a lot of people think that Bosa is going to get Donald money. And maybe the 49ers aren't offering that yet right now. So that could be the gulf between Nick Bosa and the 49ers. '49ers have the money to pay Bosa. Do they have the cap space to pay Bosa and keep their roster sustainable? Well, that's why they're negotiating, because this is going to be a matter of $1 to $2 million here and there. That's what, the salary cap is like a sink that's filling up with water. It's getting higher and higher. At a certain point, if that water in the sink gets high enough, it spills over and you've got a mess. That's called salary cap hell. But if you're regulating the flow of water into the sink and you're letting certain amount of water drain, you can keep that sink under the lip of the sink, right? You can keep the water level under the lip of the sink and you'll be fine. That's what the 49ers are trying to do. They're almost full. Their sink is almost full. Water's still pouring in. Nick Bosa is going to be a big bucket of water that you dump in there. So you got to make sure that bucket of water is not going to overwhelm the sink. That's exactly what the 49ers are doing right now. You don't want to end up in the same salary cap situation as the Rams or the late 90s 49ers. Both ended up in cap hell. Both had to cut players that they didn't want to cut just to fit under the salary cap. Yeah, but if the 49ers didn't pay Christian McCaffrey, then they would be a worse football team. There's no player last year that had a bigger impact on the 49ers efficiency than Christian McCaffrey. So, yeah, of course, you could say that about another way to keep it low is to not pay Nick Bosa. Another way to keep it low is to not draft any quarterbacks and never pay a quarterback. Another way to keep it low is to cut all your star players. That kind of defeats the purpose, right? Because then you don't have a good football team. To have a good football team, you have to pay people, but you also have to find a way to develop people, because you're going to have some high-priced players and they're going to take up most of your cap space. And then you're going to have some lower-priced players still deliver good football to fill in the gaps. That's what you absolutely have to do. And not paying Christian McCaffrey, which is what I think you're insinuating here, would not be the most efficient way to go about your business, just because he's so damn impactful. A lot of running backs, the reason the running back market is depressed, or one of the reasons it's depressed, is because, yes, a run-only running back is not as valuable in the grand scheme of things to football teams, just given the way that the game is going. There is also a supply and demand issue. There are a lot of guys who can run, but there are not a lot of guys who can run and catch the ball out of the backfield and block and be this multifaceted weapon that transforms an offense. And that's why Christian McCaffrey is more expensive. And that's why the 49ers were willing to pay for him, both in draft capital and in salary this year. And I don't think you'd find anybody that knows the game of football, who truly knows the game of football, who can tell you with a straight face this wasn't worth it. There's a lot of people that criticize the trade when it happened, but they were wrong. I mean, facts over feelings in this situation again, right? Christian McCaffrey completely transformed the 49ers offense in a good way. Okay, so you say that you're not talking about Christian McCaffrey. I apologize if I assumed that, but there are a lot of people who categorize the McCaffrey expenditure from the 49ers with spending on running backs, and I think that's incorrect. We know it's incorrect because we've seen the data. We've seen what Christian McCaffrey did to this offense last year, right? So I think the future of the running back position, if it's going to get back to a higher level of pay, is going to be to follow guys like Christian McCaffrey. Learn how to be a receiver too. Learn how to do everything, because we're moving to positionless skill position football in the NFL. I think the 49ers are at the forefront of it with the way that Kyle Shanahan is running his offense. That is true. McCaffrey's the only one who scored in that game for the 49ers. It was a hell of a run. 49ers have been happy with Javon Hargrave. Today, he was complimented by Aaron Banks. So that Hargrave, especially in one-on-ones, and you get to see him up close with pads on, has been the real deal. He was pushing some guys back in one-on-ones. I don't think that you're going to be upset. Bosa's going to get his money. This is about finding the sweet spot for the 49ers in terms of the bigger picture salary cap outlook. It is the sink theory. I'll do a video just on the sink. I'll have to find a good sink to be a prop in the video, and we'll talk about it. I mean, Kendall had a good day. It's hard to tell who's having a great camp until we have a lot of days with pads on, but he had a good day with the pads on today. I don't think Purdy's numbers are as good without Christian McCaffrey. I don't know how well he plays, but I think Christian he's like Steph Curry on the floor. Spacing is created just by his mere threat. You don't know if he's going to run. You don't know if he's going to go out for a pass pattern. Create spacing because he could do both at an elite level. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thumbs up. This could be one of the holdups. Yeah, it could be. It's going to be a complicated big deal. So both sides, if they're going to be using a bunch of Tetris pieces to make this deal work, both sides are going to want to make sure that everything is as favorable to their side as possible. So yes, that could be one of the holdups. I mean, they're obviously debating guaranteed money, maybe length of contract too. Those are the primary sticking points in essentially every big negotiation. I think this is a fair assessment. If September comes, then it's time to get nervous. It might last around that time to Labor Day. So buckle up. That's just the read I get on the situation from what John Lynch was saying today. '49ers are growing their A-listers. Nick Bosa is one of them. Smash the like. Let's check in on our poll, okay? All right, we've got 576 votes, and we have 84% thinking that he's going to smash the Donald number. There you go. So it's a landslide. People think that Bosa is going to go over 31.7 million. Hell yeah, this is the sanity crowd. Maybe that's what we should call this. The Sanity crowd meets on a Monday night. I don't put QBs in the headline, and all of a sudden we've got like several hundred less viewers. People just want to talk about QB madness with the 49ers. Are we sure that Bosa just doesn't want to skip camp? Christopher asks. I think Bosa loves football too much to want to skip camp. I think this is a money thing from his representation's perspective. Is AD more valuable, Aaron Donald more valuable to the Rams than Bosa to the Niners? It's a really tough one to gauge. Think they're essentially, I would say, equally valuable. I mean, they're both straws that stir the drink for their respective defenses. Aaron Donald's a really good football player, but Bosa was better last year. Donald started to run into some injury issues. So Donald might be, I mean, he might have peaked already. And you would think, based on the age, he's been around the league for a while, right? Wrong side of 30 now for Aaron Donald. So you would think that at some point the performance will start to regress. Awesome. Hope you said hi if you saw me at training camp. Let's say Drake totally balls out. Will the 49ers go above Aaron Donald for Drake's deal? What are you talking about? Because Bosa's deal will be done before Drake has a chance to ball out. I'll tell you, if Drake Jackson balls out, then the 49ers are going to win the Super Bowl. They would have one of the best defenses of all time, in my opinion, if Drake Jackson completely balled out. They have a chance at this, guys. Like this team, you go out to camp and the pads are popping, they're hitting hard, they're focused, there are stars everywhere. Nick Bosa will be back. You don't have to worry about that. These guys, if they stay healthy, they have a chance to be really good, but they have a few hinge points on the roster that will have to deliver to make good on that vision. And one of them is Javon Hargrave, but Drake Jackson is definitely one of the true hinge points there on that defensive end position that we don't truly know what kind of production the 49ers are going to get from him. It's a big question mark right now. So all the stuff that he did in an offseason, he stayed at the facility, he added 15 to 20 pounds. That's all great. He can stay with Elijah Mitchell. The speed is still there. That's all great. But now he's got to do it. And if he can do it opposite Bosa with Hargrave, with Armstead, all those guys on the defensive line, oh boy, 49ers will be cooking with gas. The 49ers do look hungry and focused out at camp. I will say that. I will agree with you there. Well, if Drake turns out to be young Charles Haley, the 49ers better not make the mistake of trading him to the Cowboys. I do think that Brandon Ayuk could get his money next year. I think that's what the schedule is. If he puts up another 1,000-yard receiving season, he's going to be in that 49ers A-list core. They take care of their own. I would predict that for sure. I mean, Tashawn Gibson's been around. This is year 12 for him. And, maybe I could leave you guys with that. Go to my page on The Athletic. This is something I haven't talked about quite enough. Tashawn Gibson has proved to be a perfect match for the 49ers leadership role. Year 12, they listen to him when he speaks. Jimmy Ward is gone, so Gibson's got to be that coach on the field for the 49ers secondary. He's an important player. Starting safety. He led the team in interceptions last year. 5 picks. And the team led the NFL in interceptions last year. Now, the 49ers fans who aren't bandwagoners will know that's a big deal because the 49ers set an NFL record for the least interceptions in 2018. They had only 2 picks in 2018, 20 picks in 2022. That's a big deal. And a quarter of those interceptions went to the guy up on your screen, Tashawn Gibson. So anyway, read this article. Check it out. I'll put this in the description unless Mike can put it in first. But make sure to check out this article because it's in the comment section now, by the way. Reading about Tashawn Gibson will help you understand the culture of the 49ers defense. Hey, don't spam the chat with your question multiple times. I'm not going to answer it just because you posted it there 10 times. You're not letting other people answer stuff. I can't humanly get to every single question just because there's just one of me answering questions and there's a lot of you asking them. I try to get to as many as possible, but if you're going to put a question there 18 times, then I'm definitely not going to get to it. He did have 2 picks in a game. I did drink my water. I'm going to have to go drink some more. You reminded me that I still had a sip in there. All right, any more questions here? I think it's about time to go. Everybody hit the like button. Let's subscribe. Let's finish off July on a good note. I think it's been fun. Let's turn the page to August. August is going to be huge. The bulk of training camp is upon us. The preseason will be in July. It will set the table for September when the NFL regular season starts and the 49ers going for another Super Bowl. They haven't won one since January of 1995. But this year, it looks like they've got the roster to make a good run for it. We'll talk to everybody soon.